Digital 410 Productions proudly presents the Fail to Fail podcast with your host, Don Abernathy.
What's going on, everybody? Happy New Year. Happy 2022. Had this song in my head all day long. This is Culture Wall's remake of Johnny Boy's Bones. It's a Civil War song. Has nothing to do with running, but does it? And whoops, I went too far. Well, we have a return guest for 2022. I'm excited to have him on here once again. He himself has been training. Welcome back to the show, Robert Hale. Robert, how you doing, friend?
I'm doing good, Don. How you doing, man?
Good. Are you familiar with Culture Wall at all?
No. Definitely not.
You watch the show Yellowstone at all?
Nope, not at all.
Let's say if you watch Yellowstone, you're familiar with Culture Wall, but to give myself credit where credit is due, I've been listening longer than our friends over at Yellowstone was promoting them. But the reason I play that, and maybe this would be an interesting way to kick off, I'm always interested in, and I think we may have discussed this last time on the Fail to Fail podcast. And by the way, for those of you on the Digital 410 network, the Fail to Fail podcast, we haven't put out a show in a long time, but I'm happy to say we are the first podcast I've recorded in 2022. I've actually taken 2 weeks off from the What's the Scuttlebutt and the What's in Your Head podcast. So, Robert, you are the first guest on the Digital 410 network in 2022, so welcome back. But the reason I bring up Culture Wall is when you're running. Now, you and I, we're old cats, right? We're old. We're fighting old man problems. And I think you and I can both acknowledge the fact that we will never run faster. So at this point in our age, we got to work on running further. Would you agree with that?
Well, I mean, I'm definitely running further.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still trying to run faster. I mean, I'm not going to be like a 5-minute mile guy, but I'm still trying to get there.
You're not going to match the personal best that you were putting out 4 years ago, right? Unless you weren't as fit as you are now.
Oh, I definitely wasn't as fit as I am now.
Because I'm struggling. Before the show tonight, I actually went downtown. My daughter had her first time at a youth group, so I dropped her off and I went downtown Fort Myers and I did 4.5 miles. Which, okay, that's great. Doesn't sound like too much, but that includes the Edison Bridge. Which, if you run the entire Edison Bridge, it's a mile long, but it's also high as hell. I'm looking at my stats now. I ran 4.33 miles at 11:52 pace, which isn't fast, but it's the first long distance I've ran in a while, and I'll get to that momentarily. But that also includes an elevation of 131 feet. And so running up that bridge both ways, I got over the bridge. I'm like, I'm going to run an extra mile, and that'll get me at 3 miles so that when I turn around, I'm obligated, right? You got to run 3 miles back to where you started. So that would give me a 10K. I got over the bridge and ran at like a quarter of a mile. I said, I can't. One, I'm wearing new shoes, and two, this is the first time I ran downtown in the bridge in like a year and a half. I've been running my neighborhood for like the last year and a half, which is completely flat. So I went back, but for the first time, I actually bombed the downside of the bridge coming back. You ever tried to bomb a downhill?
Yeah, I actually did recently. It's not fun.
Actually, I enjoyed it because it's the first time I've run down that bridge fast, but I've been watching these over the last 2 years since COVID. I've been YouTube, give credit where credit's due. I'm an OCR guy. Spartan and Savage Race have been, they've been broadcasting their elite guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you can see all their elites, Lindsay Webster, her husband, which I don't know why he slipped me at the moment. I'm following him on Strava, but I'm coming off a 4-mile run. But I'm watching these guys, they bombed the downhill, and they got their hands kind of weird, and they're just going. And you realize, they're just giving it to gravity. Their job is to maintain balance and let gravity maintain their speed, right? And so I've run down this bridge before, but tonight I actually did the whole crazy hands, and I just bombed it. And luckily, people got out of my way. Sadly, it's not my PR, but that's the first time I've actually bombed the downhill in a long time, and I actually had fun with it.
Well, you know what? Sometimes you just have to let it go.
So give us a catch-up. I know you were doing a lot of running, a lot of training. You got great training videos on your YouTube channel, which we'll plug here at the end of the show. What was your goals for last year, and did you meet them?
Let's see. Last year, I think last time I was on, I was just starting or getting ready to start training for a half marathon, going for a PR.
What would your PR be on a half marathon?
Well, before I started training, it was like 201. It was actually 201 flat. And then I trained, and in April, I ran a half marathon instead of 156 PR.
Nice.
So then the goal shifted to my first standalone marathon in October. The goal was 4 hours, and I was nowhere near that. I was like 5.5. Like I was dying. Apparently Nashville's definition of rolling hills and Florida's definition
you ran
of rolling
Nashville.
hills.
Well, see, you're sleeping on that. You didn't tell us
Yeah.
you ran out of state. For those of you guys listening at home, we're in flat-ass Florida. Now, you live a little further north in flat-ass Florida than I do. Therefore, you have – people don't realize this because when they see videos of Florida, they're seeing Miami, they're seeing Tampa, they're seeing Key West.
Orlando.
As you drive north, you're getting closer to Georgia, and so you actually get more hills. But there's still nothing compared to a Tennessee. So even if you're like running around up in the Orlando area, or even may go up a little further to like, oh crap, I'm blanking out because my runner's brain. But you go up and run those areas, you'll get some hills, but nothing like Tennessee.
Yeah, the hills in Tennessee, and this marathon, it was a small marathon. It's probably I actually didn't even expect it to be this small. There was probably, I think, 50 people that ran the marathon. It was so there were times on the course I literally thought I was the only one running.
That's kind of rough on a long distance run.
Oh, it sucks.
For those of you who've, and we talked about this in the past, for those of you who've never run 5K, a 10K, you're out run the streets, you're pounding the neighborhood. Every once in a while you may find a run group. But the first time you run a 5K, a 10K, whatever it may be, that pack instinct, you don't know anything about it. But all of a sudden, the pack instinct kicked in. Your body automatically matches the pace of the slowest people. In your mind, you're profiling. Oh, I can run faster than that cat. Probably not that cat up there, but I want to try to stay. And so your body instinctively tries to make your way in the pack. And you can obviously trail people and run behind them. They break the wind. But when you get out there and you're by yourself, it really kills the motivation. You're just like, what happened?
Yeah, and 100% agree. So this marathon I was on, so we started at the start line, and like the first thing you do, you get 100 yards in, and it drops into a downhill. So you're like, well, this is going to suck. But it was probably the most amazing scenery because it was just a running path. That's all it was. It was 26 miles of a running path through like some park along multiple rivers and stuff. So there was no vehicles, no traffic, nothing.
Beautiful.
But the first six miles, or first half marathon, so first 13 miles was all hills. It was up and down, and you're running through like a golf course, but there was one hill 6 miles in that was a quarter-mile hill, but it was like 500 feet up. It was like that your elevation gain happened there, and your quads are destroyed at this point. You're only a quarter way through the race. The second half was flat, but then you knew you had to turn around and come back through the hills. But yeah, that one was brutal.
What was your half marathon time?
I think for that.
Are you on Athlinks? Are you on Athlinks at all?
Yes.
I can pull it up because I'm looking at my Athlinks right now. Keep talking and I'll pull it up.
Yeah, my best half marathon is 156 and change. That half marathon, I don't. I can pull up my Garmin stats because I still have it.
Well, the reason I ask is because there's a bunch of unclaimed results under your name. But anyhow, the reason I ask is, what was it? March 15th, 2020, I had a Savage race scheduled, and I had been training hard. I was like, okay, I had all these goals, and they canceled it because of COVID, right?
Right.
And so I'm like, damn it. I was diehard. You followed me on Instagram, and I've kind of slacked off lately, which we'll get to. But at that time, 2020, I was training hard. And I was like, well, I want to do something this weekend. So I got to looking around, and believe it or not, they had the Marco Island Marathon 5K, which was put on by the Lee County Medical Physicians Group or some shit. Some doctors group. I'm like, well, if some doctors group sponsoring this run in the middle of COVID, clearly it's all right. And so I signed up for it. Never trained for a half marathon. My Savage races are 7 miles. In the past, I have ran 14, 12 miles just on a whim, and it's so weird. Like, you train a lot, and then one day you're out running, and you just feel like a stallion. You leave your house with the intent of running 5, 6 miles, and next thing you know, you're running 12. And so I had a few of those. So I signed up for this. No idea the course map. I just signed up for like on a Thursday, and the thing was Saturday. My time, believe it or not, for this half marathon was 2:06:33 for my first half marathon, which is slow, but I maintained a 9:40 pace. And kind of like you were saying, now this is Marco Island, and as the name implies, island. As soon as this marathon started, we had to run over 2 bridges, front and back. And I never knew that Marco Island had hills. People jokingly told me, "Oh, well, those are Indian burial grounds." These neighborhoods had hills, and I was struggling, but I finished it and ran a 9:40 pace, which wasn't bad for a 42-year-old dude doing his first half marathon.
No, that's not bad at all.
Let's see, I was 92 out of 201 people, and considering I didn't train for it, I was 59 out of 102 males, and I was 12th in my age group. There's only 17 of us, but yeah. And so, are you familiar with the Berkeley Marathon or the Barkley Marathon?
No.
You got to do yourself a favor. Maybe one day when you're sitting in an ice tub or you're chilling, Google or go on YouTube and look for Barkley Marathon. It's a marathon in the hills of Tennessee, and it's basically around the prison. I think that some prisoners escaped from, right, and they were up in the woods for 4 days. And so this is like 1978. And so these 2 guys who were long distance runners and ultra runners, like, I wonder what it'd be like to try to run from the cops out there. And so they created a 500-mile run out in Tennessee. It's called the Barkley Marathon. You cannot sign up through the internet. There's no official sign-up group. Only way you can sign up is you have to know somebody who knows the way. And you have to submit a letter of why you should be eligible to join this marathon, and they usually let about 15 to 20 people run. The registration fee is $1 and a license plate, and sometimes you got to bring a guy flannel. It's kind of like the anti-ultra marathon. You don't know what time the start time is. So let's say, Robert, you signed up, you want to join. They send you a letter of condolences saying, "Sorry, you've been accepted. You're going to have to run this thing because it's through the woods. It's all compass. There's no pre-run map." So let's just go through this. You got accepted. They said, "Okay, Robert, be here Friday by 3. The race will start somewhere between Friday at 10 p.m. and Saturday at 3 p.m. So you have no idea. So you get there, you're in a tent. It's the wintertime. It's cold. People are coming all over from around the world. About 4 hours, they put out a course map. And it's your job to copy it. They don't give you one. You have to copy the map. You have a compass, not allowed using GPS. You can have your teams there. So basically it's loops. I forget, I think they're loops that are marathon 24 miles, maybe 25 miles each, and you got to run 5 loops or whatever the math is. Just go on YouTube. This thing will blow your mind. Since 1978, there's only been 15 people who finished it.
Yeah, I'm good, man. You lost me at orienteering.
But no, it's just, I'm not saying to run it, but just to watch it and see how
I might check out the documentary.
Hardcore these guys are. It's insane what these guys go through. They're running through briars and all this stuff, and it's the world's craziest marathon. And I don't even know. For some reason, I got on this weird kick. I've been watching ultra marathon videos, fastest known times, where guys are like running fastest known time on the Appalachian trails and the Colorado trails. That stuff is insane, and the amount of work and teams required to run those sort of ultra marathons are nuts.
Yeah, I'm good. 26 on foot is the farthest I'm willing to go.
Well, see, that's why I want to kind of talk to you about. I want to talk about goals for 2022. Are you going to try to do an Ironman this year?
I've got 2 on the schedule.
Nice. Where and when?
All right. So the first one, this is what I'm currently training for, is May 7th. And you're going to laugh at the location, but it's in St. George, Utah.
Wow. So not only are you running, but you got to get on a plane.
I got to get on a plane. It's I think the starting elevation is at like 2,500 feet compared to my 32 feet here. And it's a Ironman.
32 feet.
140.6 miles. And I think the bike course has about 5,800 feet of elevation gain on it. And let's just make this even better. I signed up for the race back in May.
Mm-hmm.
It was the North American Championship, so I was able to sign up for it. It wasn't like the qualify only race. Because of COVID and what we're going through now, Hawaii would have had to cancel the Ironman World Championship again this year. So they postponed it till February 2022. and they had to postpone it again. So instead of postponing it in Hawaii, they said, well, we're going to make St. George, Utah, the current 2021 World Championship race.
Wow.
And if you're registered already, we're going to let you race it if you want to stay.
Now, could you imagine training for the other one before they moved it? So
Hawaii?
You're looking at course mess. You're thinking about the temperature and all that stuff. And like, if let's say you're like a pro athlete, right? You're like a Ryan Atkins or Lindsey Webster who does OCR all the time. They got running. And so a lot of these hardcore cats, and you would know better than I, but you kind of try to set your training runs similar to what you're going to be running. And now all of a sudden they move it to a whole new location. You're like, oh, damn it.
I mean, luckily they moved it in enough time.
Yeah.
So like they moved it. I think they announced it back in like June or July that it was going to be the World Championship race. So all the pros that are training for it, everybody that's signed up for it, we've had plenty of time to mentally wrap our minds around the fact that we're racing the World Championship race. The pros, most of them have already been there. They train for whatever race, whatever. The only thing they have to do is they might have to train in Colorado, vice Arizona to get, the elevation. But I mean, now you're at a weird spot because Colorado doesn't have the same heat that St. George is going to have, but Arizona does. But Arizona doesn't have the same elevation that Colorado would have. So it's a really weird dynamic. And here I am, a Florida boy, in the flattest of flat areas, training for the hills of St. George, Utah.
Not only that, but as somebody who runs in Florida, environment is a tremendous difference because on a super humid day in the middle of August in Florida, as crazy it might sound, you'll be running and you feel like you're running through a fishnet. That humidity is so thick.
Oh, God.
And you literally feel like there's hands pulling you back. And so luckily they moved it to a drier place that doesn't have that sort of humidity, but now you got to compete with that hot-ass heat.
Right. And like when I trained for the half marathon, I was running sub 9 miles for 7-10 miles.
Nice.
When I trained for the marathon over the summer, I couldn't break 9:30. Like I couldn't run. I think the longest run I did was 7:30, 7.5 miles. And I couldn't get faster than like 9:30, 10-minute miles. And the humidity was killer. But like you said, I won't have to deal with the humidity, but I have to deal with the heat.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, you have the elevation, the heat all at once. And I'm not going to have enough time to properly acclimate myself because, I still have to work. And
that was going to be my next question. You're not a professional runner. Now you're flying. So you don't have the ability to say, or maybe you do, maybe pocketed a week's worth of vacation, but you don't have, I doubt you're going to go out there a week in advance and spend a week worth of hotel rooms or Airbnb. So how much time are you going to give yourself to acclimate to that altitude? Are you showing up the day before? Are you going to give yourself at least a day, 2 days?
So based on tradition and history, with Ironman races, you have to check in 2 days before the race starts. So if the race is on a Saturday, I'll have to at the earliest I got to be there by Thursday. I'm planning to get out there like Tuesday. That's the best I got because I do have family obligations and work and stuff like that. So luckily I work remote, so I can bring my laptop with me and knock out some hours while I'm there. I don't have it's not like I have a booked schedule out in Utah where I have to do, I'm not a pro. I don't have to do media appearances and sponsorship things. I can literally sit at the Airbnb because I'm rooming with like 2 or 3 other people. We're all splitting the cost. So it's cost effective. And I can just stay there, do what I have to do, and then, get ready to race, fly home. I don't know if I'm going to fly home Sunday or Monday, but I'm giving myself essentially 4 days to acclimate, which is probably not enough time.
Yeah. But
it's the best I got as a regular athlete. And
I mean, I can tell you, the hardest thing not the hardest things, but one of the crazier things is you're training, you say, okay, I'm going to go get the hotel room or the Airbnb or whatever. I'm going to try to get at least 8-9 hours of sleep beforehand. And you just sit in that bed and you're staring at the wall. It's not your bed. There's little inconsistencies. And it's so hard to get sleep the night before a race when you're not staying at your home.
I don't think I've ever slept well before a race.
No. The 2 Savage races ago, I got the idea, hey, let's turn this into a family event. It's up in, Dade City, Ohio. Not Dade City, Dade City, Florida. I got a toy hauler camper, so let's grab the wife, let's grab the kid, we'll get a camp spot, we'll camp out the night before, I'll go get up and run the race in the morning. I don't take spectators to those because they're really not spectator friendly. You're basically taking someone to pay $25 to sit around and have vendors try to sell them crap. The courses really aren't set up for vendors. So after the first Savage race, actually the second Savage race I ever did, I stopped taking people, forcing them to sit there and wait on me. I just go run alone. Kind of sucks when you come across the finish line, no one's there, but at least you're not making someone sit there for 2 hours listening to bad techno music and having people try to give them, the sales pitch on everything. But what I was getting at is we got this really bad camp spot. They put us, it wasn't even a campground. It was basically like a preview of what your life would be if you want to retire and live in a senior village. I mean, everybody there was 60. They're permanent residents. Their house. We were basically in a little alley. I couldn't even put the canopy out on my camper because whoever drove by would drive through it. It was almost like we were set up in an alley behind a Chinese restaurant. It was that bad. So I got no sleep that day. But now I'm at the race and I'm running in the back of my mind. I'm thinking, my kid and my wife are sitting in a camper. There's nothing to do. There's not even a patch of grass. The dog's there. There's no fire ring. There's nothing for them to do. And so now in my mind, it's like, I got to get this race done so I can go rescue them and we can go home. And so instead of trying obstacles that I suffered through and fell off, I just tried everything once and ran and kind of half-assed it just so I could go rescue them and take them back home. So sometimes it's almost better to do that sort of stuff alone so that your mind's clear. You're not worried about whoever you brought unless that person's committed and they get the game.
Yeah, the first Ironman I did in 2016, I actually went there alone, and I was like, "Yeah, I'll be fine. Don't worry about it. It's just a race. You've been to every other race. My wife and my oldest daughter have been to every race I've done other than that." And I went there, and like you said, crossing the finish line after at that point it was a shortened race. So it was only 11 hours. I got to cross
only
the finish
11 hours.
Yeah, I got done with 11 hours, and there was nobody there.
Yeah,
nobody for me to celebrate with. So I was like, "Oh, that hurt." When I did for the Ironman Florida in 2019, my wife and my oldest were there, and I've never been a spectator up to that point. I'd never really gone to a race just to kind of see what happens. I went to Ironman Florida this year to support some friends. I wasn't racing. It was, ice cold, but that's besides the point. I went there to support some friends, and I got there I got to Panama City at 5 o'clock in the morning. The race started, whatever. I got to watch the pros get out of the water, saw some of my friends, getting ready to get in the water. And then it's like, okay, cool. I have an hour and 10 minutes till they're done with the swim. And then they go on a 6-hour bike. What am I doing for 7 hours?
Staring at the vendor's tent.
Right. So I'm walking around. I'm like, all right, well, let me go to the gym. I, left town. I went to the gym for an hour and a half to go run. I came back, I'm looking for people. I'm watching this. I'm going out to eat, taking my time. And it was just like, I race, I'm not, my best race is only 14 and a half hours. What do you do for 14 hours as a supporter of someone like that? You just you sit there.
It's like going to a festival concert where the opening act never hits the stage.
Yeah. And you're sitting there waiting. So I'm I feel really bad for my wife and daughter. Cause what are they doing luckily they have the car. They can go, they're older. They can get up and go somewhere. My wife's coming to Utah with me and, we'll have a couple other friends with us. But she can go drive and go take a nap and go whatever.
When you have 11-hour races, aren't there checkpoints they could drive to and kind of, hey, what's up? As you're coming through the aid station and drinking, at least.
With the bike, I mean, they can. There are, if you know the course map, you can drive and meet up to find out where they are. The run is usually a little bit more spectator friendly because you have a lot of people on. It's not just a point to point type thing. So the run, they'll usually sit there and wait for me. But again, during the marathon at the end of an Ironman, I'm not running 8-minute miles. I'm running 12, 13-minute miles. So I'm a lot slower. But so a half marathon is 2.5, 3 hours. And then you got to do that twice. So it's what are you doing for 6 hours while I run? Just to say hi to me, twice,
Yeah.
So I felt really bad, but luckily only my wife is coming to Utah. And again, she can go and take a nap at the room or go shopping or do whatever.
Sightseeing. Utah's beautiful.
I'm glad I'm going out there. The vlog is going to be awesome.
Speaking of crossing the finish line and people being there, if you never run a half marathon or a marathon or Ironman, ultra marathon, whatever, if you watch it on TV, you see all these people standing around cheering and yelling and kind of what the hell are they doing? Believe it or not, When you're 8 miles in and you just came off of like a bridge or through a neighborhood that no one's at, and you come around that corner and there's 8-10 people there just cheering you on, it does help. Because at that point, it is all mental.
Absolutely.
Your body is in. I mean, essentially for me, I think it's different for everybody, miles wise. But I found for me around mile 8 is when my brain disconnects. My body goes into maintain its pace. You set the cruise control, and your body's just your mind. You start processing thoughts. You start looking around, and you don't think about your run. For at least me, and it's so weird how that happens, that disconnect. I guess that's that runner's high people talk about. And so at some point, your body's just, you couldn't stop running if you wanted to.
I become the worst mathematician ever.
Mm-hmm.
Because you start calculating, okay, I'm this far in. If I maintain this pace, I can get to this point here. And like you just start mathing how fast you can go when you're going to finish. But, I've done a marathon, I've done half marathons. The finish line is great. The finish line at an Ironman, though, you get a quarter mile of spectators just cheering, and they will go on Ironman's YouTube page and watch any race day video from any year. You will see even they say the last hour is the best hour of the race, from 11 p.m. to midnight. Now, the races usually start at like 6:30 in the morning. So between 11 p.m. and midnight, you still have hundreds of spectators. When I did the marathon, I took 5.5 hours, and I understand it wasn't a big spectator event. There was like 4 people at the finish line. And that was cool because I got, you got people clapping and whatever. Mm-hmm. But when you hit that run, that carpet that Ironman uses for their finisher shoot, that last 100 yards, and you have hundreds of people still cheering and the music blasting and the announcer still announcing and the lights are still there, you feel nothing. You are essentially floating for 100 yards until you get to that finish line, and then every bit of emotion. And I actually talked about that that experience in the latest vlog series on the first episode. You just feel no pain. Whatever was hurting a mile ago, it doesn't hurt anymore. And of course, the pain comes back when once the adrenaline calms down. But the finish line in an Ironman is something I've never experienced, and I always want to experience it. Like, I don't ever want to get away from that.
Yeah. There's a great TikTok that's going around. I don't know if it was a marathon, an ultra marathon, but basically, guy was in the lead. He was in that autopilot brain disconnect. And at some reason, at the end of the race, they had a hard left-hand turn to get to the finish line. This guy ran straight. And he was in that autopilot. He ran right into the pole, right into the barricade. And the guy who was in second place hung the turn, saw that he hit the pole, and slowed down his pace and let the guy come back and finish first. And then when they asked him why he did it, he said, because he was in front of me the entire race. He deserves it. And it's like, that is effing beautiful. In fact, he could easily just stole first place, but he knew that guy was hurting, burned so many calories. He was in that disconnect mode, and his body just didn't hang that left turn in time, and he actually slowed down and let the guy catch up and finish in first. And that,
I remember watching that one. Yeah, I don't know if I would have had the.
If
I'd have been able to do that, I'd have been like, I'm taking his dubs.
I'm not that good of a guy either.
No.
I will say that is one of the cool things about running and that type of activities. Everybody there is so damn friendly. Obviously, every sport has their asshole, but by and large, even if you're just out running on the street and you run past another group, everybody's just throwing up fingers saying, hey, what's up? You got this. You're running in a tough over bridge or through a hard neighborhood and you're struggling. Someone run by, hey, you got this. Come on. And just people you don't even know, just giving you a pat on the back, not physically, but sometimes physically, but just verbally, hey, come on, you got this. And that's one of my favorite things about running.
Oh, yeah. At the marathon, I did the first half marathon fine. I was still good. I started hitting that wall at 13 or 14 miles, and it was what it was. I ended up at around mile 15, I hit a crossroad, and there was another dude there. We were both kind of at the early stages of hurting. So we ran 9 miles together. Yeah. And then it was the last mile and a half or 2 miles. He was like, hey man, I'm gonna go ahead and just, whatever, but I'll see you at the finish line. I didn't expect to see him at the finish line. He was one of the 4 people there waiting for me.
That's awesome.
At the finish line, just to make sure that I finished. And then he and his girlfriend or his wife they left, after I crossed. But we ran 9 miles together. Just, we conversed, we talked like we were best friends in the world. We ran, walked, did our little interval thing, and we got there, and we hugged it out at the finish line and went our separate ways. I don't even know who the hell what his name was. Like that's how, that's the community though.
So back to the Barkley Marathon, just bring it up. I lied. The course is about 100 miles. The race limit is 60 hours. And there's a world famous long distance runner who failed the race by 3 seconds. And he was going to run it this year, and he just posted on his Instagram that he's changed his mind. But the reason I'm bringing it back up again is when you're doing a 100-mile race, you meet a random person and you team up, you use that motivation, push along, push along, push along. And so in the case of this, where you're running laps, a lot of these guys run laps together. And as I said, like 15 or 16 people has ever completed this race. Well, what they do is when it gets down to the last lap, mathematically, because you got 60 hours, they say, okay, you have enough time. You can rest 20 minutes or whatever, and then maintain your pace, once again, based off the math. But what they do is if it comes down to 2 or 3 people, they make them run opposite direction. So they're not running together. So let's say there's only 2 people left in this race. Everybody drops out. Okay, so your last lap, the one with the fastest times picks which direction. I'm going clockwise. You got to go counterclockwise so that they cannot work together on that last lap. It's just they just do it to tear them down. It's insane. But
I'm good.
It was based off the 1977 escape of James Earl Ray, who assassinated Martin Luther King. And part of the race is you run through a concrete tunnel underneath that prison that he escaped out of. But it's an interesting watch. I started off the beginning of the podcast, and once again, I have run brain because I just got back from running and going to the store and all that stuff. But the reason I brought up Coulter Wall at the beginning, I find personally when I run long distances, the way to mentally shorten that time is to listen to long songs. And so I find myself, even though I grew up listening to punk rock music and underground hip hop and all that stuff, about 5 years ago, I was running and I was listening, speaking of punk, I was listening to Dropkick Murphys, Shipping Off to Boston. It's a faster, heavier song. And, I'm running and they're short songs. I'm running to the rhythm. Well, then this weird song comes on by a group called the Dead South. They got a banjo, they got a mandolin, and a guy uses his upright bass. He uses a cello. And they got these weird country Kentucky, because I'm from Kentucky, like these weird bluegrass sounding songs, but the lyrics are crazy. And I get to looking them up, and they're from Ontario, Canada. So the next time I run, I start listening to the Dead South radio, then Coulter Wall comes on, and all these bluegrass style folk songs come on that are like 7 and 8 minutes long, and they're telling stories. They're almost like hillbilly operas, right? They're great songs. The music's insane. The lyrics are great. But what I find is they're fast-paced. They got a banjo in them. And you really got to check the music out. It's not as bad as it sounds. And so you can maintain that fast pace. But, when you're out running 8, 9, 12 miles and you're listening to 7-minute songs opposed to 300 3-minute songs, it makes that run seem a lot shorter. At least for me, it does.
So I typically run, and I got, when I get ready for a race, I start my own playlist just because, usually the playlist is based on my goal time. So if I want to run a 150 half marathon, I set a 152 playlist. And I usually mix it up, just songs that I know just to take my mind off the fact that I'm running, usually upbeat songs to keep my pace going because I always end up running to the pace of the music, and that's that. However, you're probably going to freak when you hear this one. Since starting Ironman training on November 15th, I am not running with music.
It's interesting you bring that up. I went out tonight. My kid wanted to go to youth group for the first time. The church is 3 minutes down the road. It's like, fantastic. I'll drop you off. I'll go drive 10 minutes downtown Fort Myers. I'll run for 35, 40 minutes, maybe an hour, depending on the hair I get up my butt. Come back, pick you up, and go home. I'm heading to downtown Fort Myers, and I realize, oh, hey, stupid, you left your Raycons at home. You have no music tonight. And if you have a new cell phone, they don't have headphone jacks. And so even though I'm parking at Publix, I can't just mosey in and buy earbuds because my new fancy Galaxy doesn't have a standard audio port on it. Mm-hmm. And so I actually ran that 4.5 miles, just listened to me, the sound of my feet. And luckily I was running downtown. So you had bars playing music and you got food smells and all that. So it wasn't that bad. But if I was running around my neighborhood in pitch quiet, it it changes everything.
Yeah, so I can't have music. I can't have headphones in the Ironman. So I'm preparing, not on any event. So not the bike, not the run, obviously not the swim. So I'm mentally preparing myself for that. And if right now we're 8 weeks into training, and every run I've done has been either sprints or zone 2, which is boring as hell. But if I can build that mental callus where I don't require run, I can run on my own. I'm literally having I will mentally record a vlog in my head.
I was having conversations with myself tonight, things I wanted to talk about, and it's weird. If for those of you listening, if you never, ran more than a mile or so, you process a lot of information, especially when you don't have music. You start thinking about the weirdest stuff and all the things you want to do and all the things you got to do, and like if you find yourself over loaded with your work, your life, technology, and all that, and you feel like you don't have any time to yourself, do yourself a favor, go on Amazon, get yourself a pair of $75 Saucony Cohesion 14s. They're not super expensive, but Robert can tell you that if you're not running with proper shoes, you're just hurting yourself. Get yourself a decent pair of running shoes and just walk down in the street. Walk back. Next day, walk to your neighbor. If you find that you can't jog for long periods of time, walk. Jog until you run out of breath, and then walk. And then pick up and jog. And before you know it, you're running a mile. And just remember the mantra, anybody can run a mile. But before you know it, you're getting that me time. And you're processing a lot of things and getting stuff done. And you'd be surprised how much mental production and clarity you get done. And not only that, but your body's getting fitness too.
Yeah, I mean, I get so much thought, so many thoughts done and taken care of. And, if I'm pissed off at something, that's like ideal time to go run, because I can just work it all out in my head before I do something stupid. And I mean, up here, like running through neighborhoods and, backcountry roads, I literally don't have any businesses. So it's all either my feet or cars. That's it. But yeah, I mean, that mental callus is tough, and I've got a 90-minute run on Sunday that is going to be silent.
Yeah, it's funny.
At 6 o'clock in the morning.
So I was telling myself that I'm like, hey, this sucks, but when you run a savage race, you can't wear headphones. Well, you can, you'll destroy them. But here's the dead south. Tell me you couldn't run to this and maintain a good pace. Dead South Banjo Odyssey. Now this one's only 4 minutes long, but it's like I said, when I say, I guess technically they're not bluegrass, but it's a Kentucky boy with a banjo. But and so if you're just getting started, whether it's running or exercise, definitely find something that you can do it to. Like when I go to the gym, I don't listen to this. I listen to DMX. I listen to Mad Child. I listen to 90s gangster hip hop, which I got to be very careful about singing along with in public. But yeah, I listen to things. I'll turn on Pantera. I actually went to the gym last night because I want to get into this kind of New Year's, stuff and our plans for the New Year's. But I got kind of hard on myself because between November and now, I've gained like 12 pounds. I just said, fuck it. I've been eating everything, eating candy, eating pie, this and that. And someone told me, I've noticed you've been fishing more than you've been running. And that kind of stung me a little bit, but I got to thinking, well, yeah, but in 2021, I ran 2 Savage races, 2 virtual OCR races, and a Rugged Maniac. So in 2021, I ran 3 actual OCR races and a virtual race, 2 of them. I think I earned 2 months of not moving and doing anything. But with that being said, here it is. We're in 2022. Last night I went to the gym for 45 minutes. And back to the music thing. Okay, I got 3 weights. And I want something to pump me up. So I turn on Deftones. I said, okay, I want to go back to my 90s roots. Maybe get some Deftones, some Korn, some Cold Chamber in there, some old school Limp Bizkit. And I turn it on, and they're playing like, and don't get me wrong, Jelly Roll, I love you, but they're playing slow-ass Jelly Roll. And I'm like, I want some, and I kept hitting next, and they're playing all this slow music. I'm like, I'm on this hardcore metal channel because I want to get pumped. And I got so frustrated, I had to like switch to 4 different channels before I finally found something I could lift to. And it just drove me nuts. But speaking of lifting, I know from watching your vlogs and all that, you hit the gym, but I want to ask, when you're planning on marathon, do you cut back on the strength training?
No.
Really?
No, not at all. Even now, my coach has me lifting 2 to 3 days a week when I can fit it in. So like if I have a heavy leg day towards the end of the week, he's not going to give me a third lifting day. He'll usually put in 2 actual strength days, Monday and Wednesday. My coaches did tell me that they are all for me doing extra. So like Friday, I only have I think it's only like a 2,400 yard swim, only 2,400 yard swim. If I have nothing else to do and I feel good, I can go to the gym and lift if I wanted to. I probably won't lift legs this week because I have a heavy leg weekend, but like next week I'll probably hit leg. And they are very, very fond of lifting heavy. So if I can lift heavy and not impede performance on swim, bike, and run, they are all for it.
Well, see, I just kind of figured maybe you would cut back a little bit on the weightlifting because obviously muscle mass has weight to it and you're trying to run long distances and you're basically, unless you're cutting fat, so
that's the key. So
because you don't want to add more weight to your knees. That's what I was kind of getting at. It's like, well, you got to run and you're building muscle mass. You're going to increase your weight and bulk up, and it's going to be harder to move your body.
See, that was the thought that I used to have.
Okay.
That, muscle mass was heavier so that, you would end up having more weight on the legs. But one thing I've learned over the years for, 100% fact is that functional weight is better than dead weight. And right now, if you can find fat on my body, I'm trying to get rid of it. So I'm not I don't have abs. I'm still, way over 14%, which is, the ideal goal for me. But even if I'm putting on muscle, but getting rid of that fat, that's ideal because functional muscle is going to help you get faster anyway. I have a friend who does, he used to do marathons before he got into bodybuilding, and he was, 8-9% body fat at 180, 190 pounds. And the guy was running 7-minute miles during a marathon.
Because I'm trying to force myself to get in shape quick. I'm looking at my Strava for this month. I'm only 5 days in. I've already got 3 hours and 45 minutes worth of fitness in. I got 2 hours. I got 10 miles worth of running done already. I got 2.1 miles on my kayak. Now, let me say this. When I'm kayaking, I don't turn my Garmin on when I'm just floating around casting. What usually happens is I'll float 2 miles downstream or 3 miles down the canal. And then anytime I have a long paddle, like I'm trying to paddle back to fight the sun, anytime I have I know I'm going to be paddling for 20 minutes straight, then I'll turn on my Garmin and track it. So I've actually tracked 1.5 miles of kayaking, I've done more than that, and then 41 minutes of weight training. So I'm already at 3 hours, 45 minutes for January, and I only put in 7 hours in December. So I'm already well tracking to beat last month in my fitness. And so what I'm trying to do for my OCR, and I do want to try to get a half marathon in this year and maybe a marathon, which may be pushing it. But my 2022 goals is I want to work on my long distance running.
Yeah, my 2022 goals, like I said, the first one is obviously finish and complete Ironman World Championship, which I'm not racing the World Championship. I'm racing Ironman St. George, which just happens to be the World Championship.
I was saying, you're kind of doing the open wave, quote unquote. You're not doing the elite
essentially.
wave.
I'm not racing to win. That's my first race in 2 years. I'm not going to try to win. The next race I have Ironman wise is Ironman Chattanooga. Now that one I'm trying to set a PR, so I'm trying to go for under 12 hours with that one. Chattanooga, pretty hilly, but it's not as hilly as Utah. I figure coming off of Utah, with 4-month training block, I should be all right. I also have a half marathon in February that I'm going to try to PR. I'm going to try to go for a 140.
Wow. Where's that one at?
Orlando. It's the Disney.
Well, see, I was going to say, when you told me you're running in Tennessee, because elite events, you can find an elite event race anytime. They're all over Florida. The fact that you're traveling out of state to hilly ass areas is a true props and heads up to you. I mean, that's just insane, because you could have easily said, okay, I'll just go on an elite event and run 3 of their half marathons this year and call it quits. But no.
Well, that's the thing, because last year when I was signing up for the marathon, I needed something to run, and I couldn't find any marathon with everything being up in question. I couldn't find anything that was guaranteed to be open.
Yeah.
I was just Googling. I was on Find a Run or whatever the hell the website is, and the marathon popped up, it was $40 to register. So even if they canceled or went virtual, I was out $40, you know? So that was that. I mean, my half marathon was local, but I was initially going to do the best damn race New Orleans because I liked that course. But yeah, I did, so I did the Gulf Coast half marathon, which is, in town, is right along the beach the whole way. But yeah, I mean, it's for Ironman, I got to go out of state, which sucks, but it is, it is what it is.
What city are you in?
Pensacola.
Okay, that's not you. I found somebody here in Florida. There's a lot of Robert Hales on Athling, so
apparently, yeah. But I mean, I think I've claimed all my.
I'm just looking through. So. I'm just searching for athletes, and there's a lot of you out there. I'm trying to find yours, but anyhow, it's funny. Rugged Maniac is kind of like I jokingly refer to as my first OCR. It's at the Tampa Fairgrounds. Has a lot of inflatables, but they do have some stuff. Monkey bar type stuff, but it's definitely no Savage or, Tough Mudder or a Spartan race. So I signed up for it. It's super dirt cheap. And I ran it last year, and I had decent time. Unfortunately, they don't have chips, so it's not on Athlinks, and I didn't look it up for the show. But not only did I do a decent time, I actually had 100% completion on all our obstacles, because compared to the ones I run in Savage, they're just easier. So I signed up for this year, and I'm actually running an Elite Wave, just to see if I can, since I did that with 100% completion and decent time, I want to see if I can actually podium in my age group on that dinky little OCR this year. I'm kind of cheating because I think I can do it, but hell, why not, right? You do it the first time you get 100% completion and decent time on an open wave, why not sign up for an Elite Wave?
Right, why not? Makes sense.
Have you ever heard of the 4x4x48 by David Goggins?
I have, and I almost did it last year.
Well, for someone like me, that's a little hardcore, but I thought, well, what if we cut it in half? What if we did like a 1x24, run 1 mile every hour for 24 hours? How hard would that be?
I don't know how. I mean, that's 24 miles over the course of 24 hours. I mean,
But then you're dealing with sleep deprivation around 3, 4, 5 in the morning. Unlike, when you get up and run a marathon, you show up at 7 and start, and then you're done by, whatever. You're doing an hour, time 3 and 2 a.m. roll around. You might get a little tired.
I think that was the point of the 4x4x48 though, is, to handle, how are you handling that lack of sleep? Because I mean, you run 4 miles at the top of whatever hour, and you get the rest of the time of that 4-hour block to recover.
Yep.
So eat, sleep, do whatever. Now, it wouldn't get tough until probably like mile, like the third or fourth block, where you hit that 12, 16, 20 mile increment. I mean, you're doing 48 miles. That sucks. But when the middle of the night comes and you got to get up at like midnight and run, that's where it would be tough, because you're like, I only got like 2 hours of sleep. Is it going to be? Are you going to do it? Are you going to do it on a treadmill? Are you going to do it outside? I know a couple of people that did it. When I was going to do it was last year, but I was going to try to set up a charity event, just kind of like, raise money for whatever cause, and then donate it to whatever charitable organization or thing that I wanted to. There's a couple, I'm a former Navy guy, so there's a couple, special forces people that died in Iraq that have funds, like Shannon Kent, the female cryptologist that died a couple years ago. I was gonna raise money for her and for her family, and just kind of like donate it to them as like a Christmas gift. But I never actually got around to it because I'm a shitty person, I guess. But.
Well, for those of you listening at home who's not aware, basically you got to run 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours. Which, okay, if I can run 3 miles in 30 minutes, 4 miles in 45, so that means I get 3 hours and 55 minutes to do whatever. My question is, when you first start off and you're strong, right? You're Robert Hale. You go out and run 8, 12 miles just for fun on a Tuesday. Do you kind of do the math game? Like, okay, for the first run, I can run this 4 miles easily if I'm just taking my time. Let's just, for easy math, 40 minutes, right? And so you say, instead of running at the beginning of that 4-hour block, I'm going to run it at the end. I'm going to do the math, check out my pace, run it at the end. But instead of running 4 miles, I'm going to run 8 miles, 4 at the end of the first block, 4 at the beginning of the second block. And then I have a long period of time, because then I can do the next 4 miles at the end of the third block, and that gives me almost 7 hours to chill out. do you think you would do math games like that, or how do you think you would work it early on? I think at the end of the race you'd just be like drudging it, but I think at the beginning of the race you're like, I can blow these out quicker if I do it like this.
I don't know. Like, I hadn't thought about strategy. I mean, I would probably just wait to the top of the hour, knock them all out, and then recover the rest of it. You know, just sleep, nap, eat, whatever. This way you have enough time to digest food. But I guess towards the end, running 8 miles straight.
Or you could run 4 hours at the beginning of block 3, and then run the next 4 hours at the end. So now you're giving yourself 7 hours recovery, because it's only going to take you 45 minutes to run that 4 miles, or 50 at that point. You know what I mean? So if you do one at the beginning and one at the end of the next block, now you're giving yourself a huge time to. But then you're also giving yourself time to get sore and lose that motivation.
Yeah, because I mean, once that lactic acid sets in, that muscle stiffness, I mean, you're like, you know, that's part of the challenge. The sleep deprivation, balancing when you're going to eat, the muscle soreness, and the motivation to just get out there and do it. I mean, the first 4 blocks are going to be fine, you know, because it's cool. You know, I mean, like, you could run, depending on what time of year it is, you can go out and run 4 miles and come back and like barely have broken a sweat. You know, there's no speed requirements. Like, you have to sprint it.
Yeah, you do like 12-minute mile.
Yeah, but then like when you get to mile, like I said, you know, mile 20, 24, 28, you're like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
You know, your feet hurt, your knees hurt, your quads, your hamstrings are hurting, everything's hurting. You're stiff. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I haven't done it. I might do it because after Ironman Chattanooga in September, I'm not running for a while. So I might do it like top of the year, like, you know, to start 2023.
See, I thought it'd be kind of fun because you'd have that same sort of issue even if you're only doing 1 mile, 1 hour for 24 hours. I mean, you're still going to run in that sleep deprivation and a lot of, you know, the first 5 mile, you know, it's 12 minutes. Okay, well, that's 12 minutes, but then like by hour 18, he's like, I got things I want to do, but I got to bust out this mile. I don't know. I just thought it might be interesting to try that before you went full whole hog on the 48 hours.
Yeah, I don't know. I would probably just go for the 4x4x48 instead of just trying to dumb it down and do math. You know, just because that's the type of guy I am. I'll just, you know, if I'm not going all out, why even do it?
Absolutely. Yeah, so weight training, that's something I'm trying to get back into. Obviously, with those obstacle course races, you got monkey bars and all that. We kind of get set in the routines and get into that physical fitness rut. I've been going to Planet Fitness for probably 8 or 9 years. But the problem is I run, and I'm staring at my mixed fitness bike. Do you have a Peloton?
No, I don't.
We got a mixed fitness bike because Carrie hurt her rotator cuff. She can't run. And the mixed fitness is kind of like a Peloton. The only difference is what we found out. Peloton actually owns the patent. And this is crazy. And they've already sued iFit with NordicTrack. Peloton owns the patent, and this is crazy. It's this distinct, and I'm not reading it. I'm going off memory. They own the patent on live bike rides delivered to a bike via a tablet and or display attached to the bike with live scoreboards. So what does all that mean? That means until their patent wears out, the Mixed Fitness, the NordicTrack, and all the third-party companies, they can have the TV on their bikes, and they can have pre-recorded classes, but they cannot have live classes, and they cannot have live leaderboards. So let's say you bought a Mixed Fitness, and I'm following you, and you and I both ride in a pre-recorded race. If Mixed Fitness actually put Robert's running at this pace, this many miles, and I'm behind you, they could get sued for that.
Well, that's kind of the rub, because as a Beachbody guy, I know Beachbody and Mixed just merged. Mm-hmm. And I know I can tell you this for 100% fact. Beachbody is hosting live classes on the bike. I don't think the scoreboard part is part of it, because that was one of the things they drove home, was that they wanted to separate, you know, that between them and Orange Fitness. Peloton Orange Fitness was, you know, the whole scoreboard and keeping score thing. So I think they're still doing the live classes. I just don't think they're doing with a scoreboard on it.
Yeah, there's my bike there. They're a nice setup. It's interesting. Once again, the patent's only in the bike riding, so you can rotate the screen, and they have like live fitness classes. Because once again, the patent is only on that. And Beachbody, I did P90X for years. And that's actually how I lost my weight, going back to when I dropped 40 pounds because of 2 kidney stones. Being an IT guy, we used to do this, show circuits. We'd go to tech shows and all that, try to sell our services. And so we had a projector that would blast up on the wall behind us, slideshows. So what I actually did is I got a hold of the early P90X stuff, and I still have it. And I put a computer out in my garage, hooked it to my stereo system. Instead of a monitor, I hooked up that damn projector. So I'm out there doing P90X with 6-foot-tall homeboy and his crew on my wall. So it was almost like you're in that classroom. And even though you're in a hot-ass garage in Florida, it, once again, talking about motivation, doing it with other people. When you're doing it in a garage and the display's 6 foot tall on your wall, it definitely helps. So I actually did the whole P90X stuff, and I know they were with Beachbody for a while, weren't they? Or they still are?
Still are. Beachbody owns P90X. I know Tony Horton is doing his own thing now, but I think his latest contract was he can come back and do something whenever he wants, but he's not isolated. He's not limited to just doing Beachbody stuff.
So if you guys are out there and you're wanting a bike or whatever, Mixed Fitness is a lot cheaper. They have the payment plan, just like...
Come talk to me.
Really?
Yeah, you can get it right through me. As a Beachbody guy.
I'm telling you, I love my Mixed Fitness bike. Once Christmas is over, I'm going to move it back out in the living room. It's in the podcast studio because of the Christmas tree. I actually did the yoga for the first time the other day. I used to do yoga a lot when I had sciatic nerve pain and I was post kidney stones. I would do, believe it or not, I would do the P90X yoga is how I actually got started. And it definitely helps. And so I actually did the yoga with the Mixed Fitness. I love this damn bike. They have the scenic rides. I do the 30, 45-minute hits. I do the cool downs. There's days I'll go out and run 3 miles, come home and do a cool down on the Mixed Fitness bike. So, I mean, this is not a paid sponsorship. I wish it was. But if you're looking for a quality, I mean, the design and the craftsmanship on this thing's amazing. So if you're wanting to get in that bike realm, especially if you're living in areas where it snows all the time and you don't want to pull the trigger on a Peloton, don't sleep on Mixed Fitness. It's a great bike. I'll tell you what, once that patent wears out, I'm sure they'll have the live bike riding on it, which to me really don't matter. I mean, what do you get? What's the difference between a live and a pre-recorded? The live one, the guy might actually say, "Hey, Robert, I see you there. Pick it up, buddy." Other than that, it's the same damn thing.
Yeah, I mean, so my whole thing with, I don't do classes. Like I just despise fitness classes. I mean, not that I have anything against them, but for me personally, it's just I don't do group fitness. Let me just do my own thing. I know with the way we're doing things with the live classes on our system is, they'll have a bunch of like a green screen behind the trainer, and they'll have a little video of all the first 100 people that get into the class.
Nice.
And it's like, the trainers can see you and they got their monitors and they can shout you out and do whatever. I'm like, I don't want to be seen. Yeah. Like, I don't need to be on a monitor. I sweat too much to be on a monitor. I don't want to be looked at. Just let me get in there, make my faces, and do what I got to do on my own in my garage.
Well, the cool thing is like, say you go on here, you want to do a 45-minute ride, and you choose 90s hip-hop. That's an option. And it's kind of like Pandora. So, yes, the ride is pre-recorded, but the music is running through a music service, and you can skip up just like Pandora, you can skip up the 5 songs during that routine. And so even though you did it last week and you want to do it again tomorrow, it's not going to be the same songs in the same spot. The music changes. So at least, the verbiage will stay the same, the ride will stay the same, but it doesn't get boring because the music changes. And you can actually control the music volume. You want the trainer louder, you can adjust the volume to make the trainer louder, and you can lower the music. It has an HDMI cable, so you can just plug it into a bigger monitor if you want. But it's a great bike. I'm looking at it's covered in sweat, which is a good sign. But so I've been trying to, because I used to be, I'm going to go to the gym twice a day. Then I discovered running after I got injured and couldn't go to the gym. And then I was just running. And so now I'm trying to round out my fitness. I'm trying to run. So now my goal for 2022, now that my daughter's going to do this youth thing, I can do my long runs on Wednesdays. I do podcasts on Mondays and Tuesdays, so I'll probably just do my bike on those days and then try to get to the gym once or twice a week and then run the other day. So now instead of just, I'm running 5 days a week doing nothing else, I'm going to try to round it off so that I can get more fit in different areas instead of just being static and doing. And it helps with the motivation and doesn't burn you out when you're changing things up.
Yeah, I think the way my schedule is now is I have about 3 swims a week, 3 bikes a week, 3 runs a week, and then I mix in. And obviously, that's like Some days is just, 2 workouts. Most days are 2 workouts a day. And then I'll throw in a strength training, 2 to 3 times a week. And I just finished P90X again, like 2 weeks ago. I did the full 90 days,
Did they come out with a second version, or is it still that same one, the same original one?
Dude, we've got so many more workouts.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a P90X2, which is more athletic focused and like sports performance focused. It's different. You use medicine balls and stability ball, and it's completely different from that. And then there's the P90X3, which is like a 30-minute version. So it like combines a whole bunch of modalities as far as fitness goes. And it's just every workout is no longer than 30 minutes. It's like 30 minutes exactly. It's still the same goofy Tony Horton, but I've done that one a couple of times. I've done them all a couple of times. But yeah, we've got workouts for bodybuilders. We got workouts for runners, which for beginner runners are good. We got, your high intensity workouts. We've got your just getting started strength workouts. I mean, we have a library that rivals a lot of different things. It's like 12 different trainers, and we just keep adding more stuff every year.
This is the Scramble Brain episode of the Fail to Fail podcast. But the reason I got into the mixed fitness topic on this is, as I said, I've been going to Planet Fitness for so damn long. And I got to looking around, I'm like, this is basically a cardio gym. This is where people go when they want to lose weight. They're just getting into it. I've been coming here for years. I like the fact that I can walk in, I have to check in, everybody knows me. But with that being said, I'm looking around like, okay, I run like 12, sometimes 18 miles a week. If I'm not running, I'm on my own bike at home. The free weights here aren't super great. So even though I'm so comfortable there and we all kind of get into that fitness rut, I'm thinking about pulling the trigger, canceling my contract, and going over to Crunch, because I've been over there twice on a guest membership, and they have a 40-rung monkey bars, which is great for my OCR training. They got sled pushing areas, so you can push sleds. They got 35-inch jump. I can actually jump and squat onto a 35-inch jump box. They got the medicine ball targets where you squat and you throw it up and hit the targets. They just have so much more. I don't want to say, I guess my fitness has outgrown what Planet Fitness has available to me for the type of stuff I'm doing. And so I'm trying to get out of that comfortable rut and just change over and go to a whole new gym.
Yeah. And, I was at Planet Fitness when I started, probably like 2012. And after the second lunk alarm in the same workout, I said, F this, because the dude that hit me was one of them skinny, I don't lift. I'm wearing boat shoes. I'm just waiting for you to do something that I don't like. I was the only one in the gym. And I was leaning on the bench doing dumbbell rows. Yep. And instead of standing up and risking pulling my back, I was from 6 inches up. I dropped the weights, and he was staring at me. And as soon as he hit the alarm. And I looked at him, and he was just smirking at me. I was like, you know what? You did it again. And I walked out, 2 days later, came back, canceled my membership. And now I go to Anytime Fitness, which I like because the one I have here is one of the largest ones in the whole franchise, but I can go to anyone in the world and just fob in. Isn't
it funny that Planet Fitness's whole thing is it's the judgment-free zone, but they got the most judgmental statement plastered on the wall around the lunk alarm, and then they go as far as describing what a lunk is, and it's like the most offensive description of a gym person. It's like, how are you claiming to be the holy no judgment zone? You get purple equipment so people don't feel masculine, which I get, that's fine. But if your whole thing is we're judgment-free zone, why do you have the most judgmental statement written on your goddamn wall and then have an alarm if you accidentally drop your weight or breathe a little too heavy?
Well, what got me was when they started outlawing deadlifting and you couldn't superset. Like they put up signs saying there were no supersetting. So I can't go from chest press to chest flies or something like that, or whatever. And like no supersetting, no deadlifting, no powerlifting moves. So I couldn't, you can't squat free weights. Their dumbbells only go up to like 60 to 70 pounds. Their prefab curl bars and straight bars only go up to like 50, 60 pounds. I mean, I outgrew that place pretty quickly, but after the lunk alarm, that was like what really set me off. No pun intended.
And just Planet Fitness is a weird environment in the way of their franchises. And so to give Planet Fitness some credit, I've never had those problems at ours because our franchisee is cool. The only problem is he gives his people time off. So on Fridays, the place closes at 8, and Saturday and Sunday it closes at 8, so I can go to the other ones open 24 hours. Luckily, I wear, some kind of in your face t-shirts while I'm in there, and I've never had comments about my shirts and anything like. I've never had a bad experience that you hear about on the internet with people getting kicked out because they had a jug of water or people getting kicked out. I've never had that at mine. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been there for 10 or 12 years. But in the case of mine, I've just out my fitness level. Not that I'm some huge hulking guy, but the things I'm wanting to do in my training, I just can't do there. I mean, they got the pull down ropes, which is fine, but other than that, it's like I'm more into. I'm borderline on like CrossFit, but without the insanity of it. I need to start pushing sleds, do these squats with the and so I'm probably going, and it's only going to cost you about $10 more a month.
Yeah, I mean, Planet Fitness is great for beginners who just want to get active. Like if you
want to tread 20 pounds, 30 pounds, go for it.
It ain't even about that. Like if you want to just move, because they have like 100 treadmills and ellipticals and bikes and
50,
whatever. Cool, man.
8-step machines. They do have a lot of ellipticals and bicycles and all that stuff.
Right, but at some point, you're going to graduate to a facility that suits your needs. So as you get better in whatever it is you're doing, you particularly need a gym that's going to be more suited for the OCR stuff. So you're going to have, the sled pulls and the medicine balls and things, the slams and whatever. I just, give me a weight section with dumbbells and free weights and I'm good to go.
Well, and that's the thing too. I went there and their weights, the free weights, like you said, Planet Fitness might max out 65 pounds, and they just have so much more. Instead of having 225s, they got 625s. And they have so much more. And the other thing I never thought about, Planet Fitness bench presses, they are assisted. They got the poles. And so you're going there and you're ripping and you're putting up weight. And I've been going there for so many years. When I went to Crunch Fitness, their bench press is just a goddamn bench. And so now you're going like this, left and right, because for 10 years you had this assistant. All you got to do is press straight up and down. Now you're fighting the left and right motion, and you realize, oh, I've been getting kind of coddled and not getting the full workout because not only are you pushing up, part of the workout is controlling the left and right motion. And so I realized, and the equipment's just newer, and because our Crunch Fitness was just built, so I'm probably going to pull the trigger and just move over there because I really, 2022 is going to be the year for me where I'm going to try to get back to where my goal for this year, as stupid as this sounds, my goal for this year is to get my body back to where it was when I had my picture taken at Savage Race in 2019. I was at 207 at that point. I was going crazy. I was running all the time, going to the gym. 207 is not a maintainable weight when you're 6'5". So if I can maintain like a 210 walking around weight, right now I'm at 218. So I want to lose 8 pounds, but lose more fat and then build muscle to maintain that 210. That's my goal for 2022.
Right now, this morning I weighed in around 214, which is...
You're what, 6'5", 6'4"?
6 foot.
6 foot?
Yeah. So my goal for race day in May is between 195 and 200.
Do you find when you're running, because you and I both have, I'm 5 inches taller than you, but we have longer legs, but I realize when I'm running, I don't utilize my gait. I don't pull my knees up very high. I almost run in a weird shuffle. And so one of the things I've been working on is trying to, when I get about 2 miles in, I consciously now try to force myself to raise my knees up higher, thus widening my gait, making me travel further with less steps and utilize my body that way. Because I find I have this weird little shuffle when I run. And if I just bring my knees up more often, I could probably minimize the amount of steps I'm having because I'm extending my gait. But that's just something weird I got to work on. I'm not really extending my legs a whole lot. Like I said, I'm still in the zone 2 base building training. So my paces are like between 10:09 and like 11:20 or something like that. But I did find that, because you're not going full stride when you're running slower. Yeah.
When I wanted to pick it up, like a couple of weeks ago, I wanted to just run this. My coach was like, just open up and do what you do and go as fast as you want. I'm like, sweet. The amount of effort it took to go from a 10:20 pace down to an 8:20 pace was minimal. It was literally just open your stride. And my heart rate still stayed within 10 beats of where I was, 2 minutes slower. But I was moving so much faster, and all I had to do was stride. So I like that I'm there. I like that I'm at that point. Obviously now, in a couple of weeks we start working on getting faster and getting, hill repeats and stuff like that, because that's going to be where the speed comes into play. But the endurance is definitely picking up, and I like that.
It's funny. I just ran that 4 miles probably about an hour and a half ago. My resting heart rate right now is still at 89, so which is high for me for my resting heart rate.
My wife hates me because like right now I'm at 57.
Yeah. Sometimes I'll look down. I'll be like, if I'm really chilling, I'll look down. I'll be like at 48. And Carrie's like, I'm sitting at 90. It's so crazy how much higher rate the women are.
That my wife doesn't run either. She's getting into running. I shouldn't say she doesn't run. She doesn't run often. So her aerobic capacity isn't what mine is.
Yeah.
Like, there's no contest between that. So like she'll start running and her heart rate will go up to 150, 160 in a matter of, a half a mile. Whereas for me to get to 160, I got to be 6 miles deep.
Yeah. That's
running.
That's a fun game to play too. Is if your spouse has a Fitbit or you have a Fitbit, or hopefully you moved up to a Garmin, because Fitbits are good for starting out, which they may have changed in the last 4 years. But they're very conservative. This, at least on the old Fitbit, this is considered a step, so I'd get like 20 steps doing that, whereas Garmin actually uses GPS. Because when I had my Fitbit, once again, I was just starting, but I would drive. I'm an IT guy. And so I'm steering my wheel like this all day. I'd get home, I'd have like 40,000 steps in, like 18,000 steps in. And then I switched to the Garmin with my same routine, and I'm like, wow, I got 5,000 steps in. Cut it in half because Fitbit uses hand movement. They kind of use steps as a unit of measurement and not actual steps. But what I'm getting to is it's a fun game to play. Is like if you and your spouse both have a Garmin or both have a Fitbit, go out and run a mile and see the difference on calories burned and heart rate between, even if your wife or spouse runs as much as you do and you guys can maintain that rate and you've been doing it a long time, you will see there is a genetic difference between men and women. Even if you're a man and you just start running and your wife's been running for 4 years, you will notice when you look side by side, compare them, you will actually see a huge difference between calories burned. Men burn more calories. Our heart rates are lower. It's crazy how much different it is when you do a side-by-side comparison using the stats from your device.
Well, the calories, it makes sense because, okay, I'm not going to say it's the same for all, but most men compared to women will have more muscle mass. And, every pound of muscle you have burns more calories. So if you have more muscle mass. I didn't know that. Yeah, men just genetically and, just have more muscle mass. So I think it's like 1 pound of muscle mass burns like 100 calories a day or something like that. So if you're carrying 190 pounds of muscle mass, just muscle by itself, you're burning at least 1,900 calories a day or something like that. It's not an exact, obviously everybody's different, whatever, but that's the estimate is that, 100 pounds per pound of muscle. So naturally men are going to burn more, and then it becomes, the aerobic capacity on top of everything, and, how fast you're moving, your tendons, your bone structure, your breathing, and your circulatory system. And that's all going to determine how much calories you're burning. The efficiency of your body to pump blood. I mean, your body's it's not a simple being. It's not a simple machine. It's very, very complex, but it is interesting to see, so my wife and I, we'll go run and I'll be like, yeah, I ran 6 miles and, I burned the same amount of calories it took for you to burn, like our calories just like so different. Like I have to run further or she has to run further to burn more calories than me. And she's not going to ever run that far.
Before we wrap it up, you study more on you're more into the technology and actually getting into calories and BMI and all that stuff. Do you think at some point we need to either get rid of the BMI or recalculate it?
I hate the BMI. BMI is absolute, utter, outdated trash.
For those of you at home, BMI is the body mass index. And as he just said, which is my point, the body mass index was invented in 1850.
Right. And it was invented to identify, obviously this is before people started lifting weights. Mm-hmm. This is before people started working on muscle mass and stuff like that. So it was back when it was created, it was a good idea, a good estimate to say, okay, cool, you're overweight, you're obese, you're a health risk. But now it literally goes off your height and weight and doesn't go off of, muscle mass or anything like that. So you look at The Rock at 6'4", 285 or 270 or 250, whatever he is now, he's considered morbidly obese.
Yeah, and that's what I was looking at. Because I'm 6'5", and at 218, yeah, I could probably shed 10 pounds to be reasonable, but by the BMI index, I should be 178 pounds. And keep in mind, in 1850, the average height of a male was 5'5". And I'm trying to find the average weight, just to put it in perspective.
I would say probably like 120 to 130.
Yeah, and so now we're over 100 years ahead. We have prenatal vitamins, which help us as babies. We have better medicine. We're cruising around at 6'5", 6'7". I don't think using a chart that's designed for dudes that average 5'5" and 145 pounds is a really good way to try to. And it's not just fitness; they use this in doctors' offices.
Yeah,
and it's just
the only justification I could have with keeping it is for the doctor's office. Like, you can literally look at somebody and say, height, weight, boom, here's your BMI, without even doing measurements, and you can say, okay, well, you're obese, and depending on the individual, if you are not physically active, yeah, okay, that's probably gonna be more accurate. I'm considered obese according to BMI, and I'm 6 foot 214. And okay, I'm not the best, the most in shape person, but clearly I'm not horribly out of shape. I'm obese, which I think is garbage. Bodybuilders are obese. Elite athletes, if you've lifted and built mass in any way, shape, or form, you're obese, which clearly is wrong. So I think BMI, if you're going to keep it, use it as an estimate in the doctor's office for like whatever potential health risks, but that should never, ever, ever be used as a gauge of your personal
Now,
health.
I'm going to be fully honest on here. I'm going to my Garmin because I do track my weight every morning. And like I said, okay, I've gained a lot of weight. My running, when I did my last Savage race, I was 218. As of this morning, I'm 228.2. So I've got some weight to lose. So I'm on the BMI calculator now. I'm 6'5". I'm 228.2. And this thing should say I'm obese. Okay, I'm overweight. So it's saying your BMI is 27.1, indicating your weight is overweight category. For your height and healthy weight range would be from 156 to 210 pounds. 156 is a bit of a stretch for 6'5". I mean, you're talking looking like freaking the lead singer of Rolling Stones at that point. 210, yes, but I couldn't imagine me walking around at my skinniest. When I moved to California at 21, I was 175 pounds, and I was rail thin. You could put your hands around my biceps. That's when I started going to the gyms, when I moved to California. And I'm going to the beach, and I got skinny, crackhead heroin arms, but I cannot imagine being back to 156 pounds at 6'5".
If you take my weight and my estimated body fat, and you did the math, whatever, I have about 165 to 169 pounds of muscle of lean mass. There's no physical way I could get to my BMI healthy weight, which is like below 160.
Yeah, you would almost have to go on the Matthew McConaughey Texas Buyers Club diet, where he lost all that weight, and he said it's permanently affected his body for losing that much weight in that movie.
Oh, I believe it. I mean, Christian Bale did it with The Machinist, and he got down like 105 pounds or 100 pounds or something like that. And I mean, you starve yourself, and I couldn't imagine. There's no way, shape, or form I would ever be able to eat less than 1,000 calories a day and do nothing.
We're going to wrap it up, but we could go on for more and more hours.
Oh, yeah, sure.
You have a great blog on your YouTube channel, and you talk about the proteins and the diets and all that stuff. What is your YouTube channel so people can find you?
I think it's just Rob Hale.
No, I'm on YouTube now, so let's find out. I should have had all this in advance, but once again, I had a busy night before I got here. And people can find you also on Instagram. You post a lot of stuff on Instagram. And now you on Instagram, you do have yourself listed as a coach. Do you
Coach Rob H.
Do you actively take on people to help them with their plans when it comes to coach? What sort of coaching do you actually do?
I can. So, I mean, the coach title is when I joined Beachbody, like back in 2012, they call their distributors coaches. Okay. I'm not going to sugarcoat that and like try to make it seem like I'm more than what I am. I do help people obviously, figure out their workouts and their programs and their nutrition plans and supplements and stuff like that. I have a group going now where I got like 10 ladies in there that are, losing 5 to 7 pounds from the last group that they're doing a second one.
That's awesome.
I have studied for the certified personal trainer cert. I just haven't taken the test because I'm lazy. But I mean, that's basically where it's at. I mean, I can help you. You want to reach out. That's fine. I mean, I don't charge for anything. Free advice.
The easiest way to find him on Instagram, his name displays on his profile is Robert Hale, but the actual Instagram channel would be Coach Rob H. That's actually what your Instagram is. So if you guys search for Coach Rob H, it'll pull that up and you'll find him that way. And he's got a lot of great information on there. He has a link to his YouTube channel on there as well. And as always, just go to fail2fail.com or d-410.com. We'll have a link to this show. And on that link to this show, we'll have links to his YouTube channel and Instagram. And so you can go follow Robert and check out and keep up with him for 2022 and see if how he does on those 2 long-ass runs. So your goal is 2 for the year, right?
Yeah, I've got 2 Ironman races this year. That's kind of like the big goal. The half marathon's a training run, essentially. But yeah, Ironman St. George in May and Ironman Chattanooga at the end of September.
Now, for those of y'all who are thinking about getting into running and all that, as I said, you can just start by walking through your neighborhood. But once you get to the point where you're running a mile or 2 and having fun with it, and you start to feel like, okay, what am I doing this for? And Rob will probably agree. Go online, find a local 5K, even if you never ran one. Just by signing up for an event, even if it's a 5K, by signing up for an event and having it on the calendar, it motivates you to work towards something. And then you run that first 5K, you're like, wow, that was fun. And now when you're out running, you feel like, okay, I'm not only running for my health, but now I'm running for something. I'm preparing for something. And now next thing you know, you're training. Like, holy shit, now I'm training for something. What are you running for? I'm training. Training for what? 5K. And just having something in the distance, a date to run towards, it just makes working out daily or bi-daily, whatever your schedule is, it just helps so much more than just getting up, okay, I got to go run. What for? Because I got to maintain my weight. No. Whether it's a 5K, 10K, a turkey trot, whatever, a mud princess, find something that's out of your comfort zone, something within at least reach of your current fitness level. And nice thing about this 5K is you don't have to run the whole damn thing. You can walk with your dog if you want to. Just get out there and just give yourself a short-term goal. And before you know it, you'll have more and more short-term goals, and you'll have 3 or 4 races on your schedule. And it helps you tremendously with staying motivated, because now you're working towards something instead of just maintaining a routine.
Oh, I agree 100%. When you sign up for that first race, whether 5K, whatever, as you're there, you start talking to people. You join your local community, and you start making friends and just getting out there and going for jogs, whatever. I mean, you become part of it. It's almost cult-like.
Yes, it is.
Everything becomes about running. You start talking to people about running, and then, I mean, it's a healthy habit. It's going to help you just, again, with your mental clarity and anxiety, and you don't need a lot to go out and run. So it's not like you got to pay, thousands of dollars a year to
just the shoes.
Buy a pair of shoes and a head, and an armband for your phone and go. But you have a sense of purpose when you run. Like you said, you sign up for a race, you pick a date, and you say, boom, now I have to train for that race. And you don't have to train hardcore. You're not trying to qualify for Boston yet. You pick a date and you say, I'm going to run Couch to 5K. It's a free program.
Yep.
Learn to run a 5K.
Couch to 5K, Couch to 10K. It doesn't become a paid-for program until Couch to Half Marathon. I actually did those for my half marathon training. When I decided, I did the Couch to. I had already ran 10Ks, but when my wife started running, she downloaded those, and then I went back kind of in the coach mode, so I would go run with her on those apps, and they're tremendous. And there's another one. I don't know if it's still around. She did this one. I didn't do it. Her school did this. It was a zombie game, right? So you load this on your phone, and you go out running, and you have your music playing, and you get to mile 1 or half a mile, like a voice comes on. You notice a package on the road. What do? Oh, you pick it up, and then you found whatever. and then you hear grunts coming, and there's zombies running behind you, and so you pick up your pace, and if your pace doesn't pick up quick enough, the zombies get you. But at the end of your run, you upload it to the app, and the stuff you found on your run actually goes into the game. So it's like taking a game and encouraging to go out and run, almost like a running version of Pokemon. So
it's an augmented reality, yeah.
Yeah, so if you run too slow, the zombies start coming. They get louder and louder in your headphones over your music, so you got to run faster, and then they kind of quiet down. It was a pretty cool app. She enjoyed it, but
we did one with my daughter when she was first getting into it. And this was back when she was like 8 years old. It was a color run. It was a 5K color run where you run through the different stations and they throw colored powder at you, and you just you start off with like a white shirt, and then you end up with like 3 different colors on you, and it's fun. It is what it is. I saw one. It was like a foam run where they set up like a foam course and you just run through this foam. Hey. You go to Disney races where they dress up in costume. I don't do the costume thing, but you'd be surprised. 20,000 people racing, and they're like 80% of them are in costume and tutus and looking like Disney characters. I mean, it's just, I don't know. Like, I enjoy the running community because there's so much camaraderie.
You said earlier it's cult-like. It's like you find yourself standing in a Starbucks and dude walks in. He's got on Hoka's or Brooks.
Yep.
And you're like, I bet that fucker runs. You want to ask him, hey, you run? Yeah, how'd you know? Your shoes.
Dude, I when I go to Disney, if it's in the summertime, because certain times of year you don't always wear shorts, but I'm looking around for the people wearing the Ironman shirts and the Ironman bags and the calf tattoos, and it's like, okay, I know that guy. That guy's in an Ironman. You almost want to walk up and be like, hey, which one do you do? Start having that conversation. But I mean, I kind of respect the whole family vacation thing. Like, don't bother me if I'm with my family. But if I'm out, I was at the pool a couple weeks ago, and I had like 3 people walk up, ask me which race I'm training for, which races I've done. I'm like, dude, I just want to work out. But yeah, it's cool conversations.
Yeah, it's definitely a good time. But we're going to wrap it up. Thank you guys so much, and thanks for Act Computers for sponsoring the show. If you guys live in Southwest Florida, you need computer repair, give them a call at 239-283-1120. Even if you don't live near, they can help you remotely by logging in remotely to help you fix your computer, maintain your networks, anything that's technical related. Give them a call at 239-283. Go to act-capecoral.com. You can find more of our podcasts. We'll say the Fail to Fail podcast isn't as of right now, which I'm going to try to change for 2022, it isn't a consistently done podcast. I do it when I find interesting people to talk to. And I'll be quite honest with you. 2021, there was a huge gap between shows. But the reason for that is I actually had a huge name from the OCR community booked to come on. And the night we were getting ready to do the show, she had a friend got injured, had to take her to the hospital. And then the Spartan elite race season started, and she was just super busy. And so I was like tracking her down, and then I finally just gave up on it. But that's part of the reason. So I've been trying to find some interesting cats to talk to. But my goal for 2022 is to get more podcasts out on the Fail to Fail. But you can find more podcasts on the Digital 410 Network. We have the What's in Your Head podcast, the What's the Scuttlebutt podcast, and we do have a podcast that I have nothing to do with, which I'm so happy about. If you're into fishing, Mike and Ron host the new Tackle Your Personal Best podcast. And so now on the Digital 410 Network, we do offer 4 different podcasts that are available where all podcasts are found. Robert, thank you so much. I want to thank everybody for your support. And we hope to get some more shows out this year. So thank you guys so much. And we will talk to you all very, very soon.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me again. I appreciate it.